Okay, what's going on, guys? Ronan MMA, back with another video. Welcome back to the channel. Camera out of focus right away. That is awesome. Okay, so I woke up today and figured I don't know if I'm gonna do a video. There doesn't seem to be any breaking news that came out. They kind of got it all with that big Dana White announcement, and I was gonna do my picks video tomorrow, which I'm going to break it down into two videos because I take a long time to talk. So I was going to do a prelim video and then a main card video, and so I wasn't planning on doing one today. And then I started scrolling through YouTube, and I came across this video that absolutely infuriated me by a guy named Kiiyon Kimuras, I think is how you say his name. Yeah, he did a video that I guess he does these videos called like MMA hot takes, and look, this guy's clearly liked by a lot of people, so maybe I'm making a mistake, especially after how many people disliked my Luke Thomas video. But he did a video in about how camera focus did a video about how racism in the UFC towards black fighters is a real thing, and then he gave a bunch of examples that are horrible. I want to object to some of those, and I want to give examples and reasons as to why these are absolute nonsense. But before we get into all of that, please like and subscribe. I'm hoping that less of the progressive types watch these videos from now on, because yeah, like I said, a lot of people dislike the Luke Thomas one, and he is definitely progressive, so to speak. Yeah, just like and subscribe. Don't steal my content. Don't be a douchebag, please. Okay, so firstly, I wanted to start something out with a insightful quote that I just made up, or perhaps it was said by somebody else and I'm not remembering. But if you are looking for something, you will find it more often than not, and that applies to almost anything in life, dude. If you're looking for jobs, like if you're actually looking for a job, you'll find a job. If you're actually looking for, like, you'll be, dude, I bought a car a couple years ago, of which I didn't see a whole lot of them on the road until I owned one. And then it was like I was kind of looking for it. So they just showed up everywhere. It's kind of like when you're playing that game where you would punch each other looking for Volkswagen Beetles. You know what I mean? So firstly, I'm going to start. I took some notes down here. I was literally, everything's written in caps because he made me that fucking mad, okay? His first example for this was Tyron Woodley. Guys, Tyron Woodley experienced no racism. I'm not understanding why that narrative gets pushed. Tyron Woodley was the main pusher of that narrative. I've got some weird sounds going on back there. I don't know what they are. But anyways, Tyron Woodley was unliked not due to his race, sirs. He was unliked because of his personality, of which he had none, and then the unwarranted, like, safetyness, I don't know if that's a word, that he would fight with, right, in his fighting style. Something's creeping me out. What's going on back there? Alright, so anyways, quite literally, the only guy on the roster to unironically, not for fun, be an asshole to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Dude, we just watched Kevin Holland, who, by the way, is a beloved African-American fighter, okay, who make a ton of money, who is a fan favorite, despite not having the best win record, in his last few. You got to be a real cunt to be a dick to someone like Wonderboy, okay? So, also, this is going to be a controversial take here because, people go total brain rot when it comes to shit like this, but, like, the guy shows up completely decked out in BLM gear, which I'm talking about the organization. That's why I specifically say BLM, because I'm not going to say the words that they created to be their organization name because I don't think that they're the same thing. I think that if somebody says like Black Lives Matter, it's not a controversial statement. I think that if somebody is repping the gear of an organization that, especially now, we know basically were total frauds and did absolutely nothing to help the black community and just squandered all of their money away to benefit their own lives. And yeah, sorry if that pisses you off, but it's true, dude. Like, they're not a good organization. And every question that was asked of him, he would just say Black Lives Matter, which is fine, you know? But what I would want to ask is why, bro, keep that same energy. What we just watched, fucking, what was it, 3 or 4 black officers beat another black man to death. And we're not seeing any of this anywhere. At least not from what I've seen. I mean, I don't follow Tyron Woodley on Instagram because he got knocked out by Jake Paul. No, I'm just kidding. But I just haven't seen the same outrage from figures like Tyron Woodley about this most recent one. It seems like, you know, that would almost imply that there's some sort of racism that exists the other way when it comes to certain people. And I know people like to scoff at that, but why is it only a big deal when, you know, a white cop does something horrible, but when we've got this one is objectively worse than the George Floyd situation. Objectively, it's all like you can't argue it. And if you argue against that, then you're someone who is just, you haven't watched the full George Floyd video. You've watched the 9 minutes, which most people seen. But the full video is much you know, sheds light on a lot of the on a lot of what happened. And yeah, I'm not understanding. He then cites, well, you know, when Tyron Woodley, he said that fighters that talk about this get shut down. That's absolute dog shit. That is the most dog shit opinion I've ever heard in my fucking life. Okay, because the UFC doesn't shut down any speech when it comes to politics. Almost like Dana's a pretty big free speech proponent. I mean, there's even active UFC fighters that actively speak out against fighter pay who don't go to the lengths that Francis Ngannou goes to, of course. Because, again, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I consider Francis to be a bit of a hypocrite in that regard, because he wanted healthcare for fighters and a few other things, right? And then wants to go do business with a guy like Eddie Hearn. Do you think Eddie Hearn's hooking up his fighters with fucking healthcare? Or things like boxers aren't treated well? I don't... So he's upset with Dana White, and then he's going to go do business with a guy like Eddie Hearn. Like, come the fuck on, okay? Now, he then cites that, he says, unlike the UFC, who shuts down people's speech apparently when they want to talk about things like this, which is not true, even in the slightest. He then says, well, you know, the NBA and the NFL are organizations which are much more likely to be understanding and willing to listen, right? Now, perhaps I'll be called a racist for saying this, but wouldn't it, you know, stand to reason that that would be the case, because 95 fucking % of the athletes that participate in those two organizations are African American, right? The NFL, like, they're almost exclusively black, right? And that's not a bad thing. They're the superior athletes in those sports. This was kind of why I remember seeing some trailer a while back about racism in the NHL and hockey, and I was like, no, that's not the case, dude. If you're good enough, like Vander Kane or PK Subban or whoever the fuck, you can play in the NHL. It's just that most of the black athletes tend to go to sports like football, basketball, and when I say football, I'm talking about American football, obviously. You know, shit like this, where being taller and, you know, fast twitch muscle fibers benefits you a little bit more, because on skates, things are kind of evened out. And when it comes to skating on ice, which, by the way, I'm not a hockey fan. I am Canadian, but I'm not a hockey fan, so fucking come at me, bro. A lot of it is more hand-eye coordination and, foot coordination, right? Like, just being balanced, I guess, overall. Whereas guys like Shaq, who are 7'1" or 2" or whatever the fuck he is, he's, in all honesty, like, not supremely coordinated when it comes to fine motor skills, right? It's just not a preference for them to go play hockey. They want to play basketball and football. But of course they're willing to listen to each other, right? They all understand each other. But often they're not talking about internalized racism within the league that they're playing for. And also, I'm not sure if this guy's just fucking if he's ignorant or if he's just willfully ignorant, because does he not remember the treatment that Colin Kaepernick got after he decided he was going to kneel for the flag? Right? Which, by the way, I fucking hate Colin Kaepernick. I think he's a total douchebag, and I don't understand these, like, the obsession with the motherland or whatever, right? They're all about Africa. I'm of the opinion that if you truly want reparations for slavery, you shouldn't just go to the United States of America. You should probably hit up Africa, right? Because they're kind of the ones that put you in that situation. Which is another funny point because, we get 3 African champions in the UFC, and they unironically call themselves the 3 kings, which would be, historically the African kings that sold all the other Africans into slavery. And also 2 of those Africans were Nigerian, who are notorious for, like, not identifying with African American culture when they immigrate to the United States, right? Like, they align... people are gonna hate me, and they align much more... They're lined up with, like, Asian immigrants in the way that they come here and do their thing, okay? So I don't want to attribute any detailed things because I'm not going to get in that much trouble. But regardless, there were not a whole lot of people that were sticking up for Colin Kaepernick when he tried to equate the NFL and the combine to, like, a slave auction or something like that. Like, I didn't hear a whole lot of people come up and stick up for him. What I did hear a lot of people stick up for, though, was somebody like Kyrie Irving, who was like, he was soliciting a fucking Holocaust denial documentary. So, your guys' values seem a little out of order there, but that's all right. You'd think you'd be quicker to stick up for Colin Kaepernick than you would be for Kyrie Irving, but no problem. And then he brings up the Joe Rogan situation. Dana White not doing anything about Joe Rogan saying the N-word on his podcast. I don't know if this guy just did zero research whatsoever or if he's just being bad faith. That is a complete misrepresentation of what happened. He just says blanket term when Joe Rogan said the N-word on his podcast. First of all, Joe Rogan did not say the N-word on his podcast, from like what most people who just started listening to Joe Rogan in the last couple years are thinking that his podcast is. He said it years back, and not that makes it any more okay, right? But the fact is that nobody had a problem with it when he said it, because this kind of dumb fuck mentality didn't really exist, and he didn't just say it for fun. Like, what's up, my ninja? He didn't just start calling somebody a ninja, right? He used the word in context, in a conversation about the word itself. If you can't say the word then what the fuck, right? And they're calling him racist and all this shit, dude. And this guy just did it here, acted like it was this Joe Rogan's got an adopted black daughter whom he takes care of which he has never mentioned once, because it's not his daughter. It's the daughter from his wife's previous marriage. And during that whole controversy, he never brought it up even once. Okay, and whatever you may think about Joe Rogan's commentary, because this is an MMA channel, right? So whatever you may think about him, that's pretty badass, dude. To be going through a controversy directly related to racism, directly because, you know, you've said the N-word on a podcast years ago, and you don't even mention when all of these dummies are calling you racist that you've actually got a half black daughter who you have given the best possible life that she could have asked for and have done everything to help. He doesn't even bring it up. And also, what the fuck is the UFC supposed to do about something like that? This guy is unironically championing cancel culture, because if he said it on a broadcast, I could understand the UFC taking action. The UFC has nothing to do with his podcast. That is his own. Why would the UFC take action on something that happened, like, outside of their scope, that has nothing to do with them? That would be like a school suspending you for something you did on a Saturday. You know, unless you literally went and broke into the school, there's not much. If you shoplift at a local fucking corner store on a Saturday, your high school can't suspend you for that. You know, I mean, so that was just a dumb fuck. And, you know, he went over it pretty quickly because I think he is being slightly disingenuous. I think he's trying to get some fans. But you don't want to go down that road, my guy. If you start getting all these brain rot progressive fans in your audience, you're going to be held to the highest of high standards. And, you know, eventually you're going to say something that they don't like. So, I mean, now he started naming off people that were hated, right? That were just hated for no reason. Okay. The first one he lists was Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. Now, Mighty Mouse wasn't hated, but it was at a time when the flyweight division was not on and popping. There was very little talent. Okay, that's why. It wasn't because he's black. It's because he's a midget. Okay. And it's unfortunate because, in my opinion, Mighty Mouse might very well be the GOAT. It's between Mighty Mouse and George St. Pierre, simply because John Jones and Anderson Silva, not because I'm racist, they both failed drug tests, okay? They're out. So, that's just my opinion, because whatever. Anyways. He was not liked because he was black. He was not liked because he was a midget. And that's unfortunate. And he should have got paid way more, and he should have been way more of a fan favorite, and he should have been able to headline a pay-per-view, because he defended his belt like 11 fucking times. I mean, the guy is an absolute gangster. He is the most unappreciated champion in UFC history, in my opinion. Especially because a lot of other champions that get kind of forgot about, they were like a one and done kind of dude. You know, lost it in their first defense or second defense, whereas DJ, years and years and years and years, you never lost. Incredible, you know. And then he names Kamaru Usman getting hate, he says, for no reason. Man, if Kamaru Usman was stuck with one personality instead of 50, he might have found some consistency in a fan base, right? There's compilation videos of the many personalities of Kamaru Usman, and it's funny, and they're like funny haha jokes and whatever. But there's some truth to it. The guy stole like 5 different superstars' personalities and sayings and all this shit, and then goes on Joe Rogan's and talks like this, like I'm talking like this, like I'm telling a real spooky story. And then, like, it was like I went into the kitchen and I pulled a glass out of my cupboard, you know, and then I, like, went and filled up my water, to the most absolute mundane stories possible. He tells them like that. That's why people don't like him, okay? And that's got nothing to do with him being black, okay? And, bro, I hate when people do this also. This is unironically racist. Lumping in all of these different types of people together just because they have black skin is fucking racist. Like, actually racist, right? He lumped in Anderson Silva, who's like a black Brazilian or half black at the least. At least, I guess, I don't know fully. He doesn't, whatever. An Afro-Brazilian, right? Because Brazilian's like nationality. So some Portuguese speaking dude. Okay. They lumped him in with a guy from Nigeria. And then a guy from Jamaica. And then like African-American champions. Which, yeah, they all have darker complexion. They've all got a little bit more melanin. But they're all very different. And they all come from very different cultures. And especially a guy like Kamaru Usman, who had a pharmacist father, right? Like I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that Israel Adesanya had servants as a child, right? These people should not be your choice of like embodying the African American culture, right? Like Anderson Silva's life was nothing like somebody's life in Baltimore, okay? And I got a fucking snort because my nose is fucked. All right, we're back now. This is also another thing that bugs me, man. Oh, I must say this, okay? Kamaru Usman, who, by the way, is a Trump supporter, and put a pin in that because we'll get back to this, okay? But that was just what I wrote in my notes there. Is not a victim of racism, right? And I don't mean to throw in a whataboutism because I hate whataboutisms. But Usman has been racist on multiple occasions, going as far as refusing to fight and refusing to go for double champ status because Israel Adesanya was champion. Now, I just want to ask any of you, if any other fighter who wasn't black, so maybe looked more like me, said that they refused to fight another guy because he was white. Right? People would freak the fuck out. Big drama show, okay? It would be a big drama show. And yeah, maybe if Khabib had stuck around and Islam got to that point, maybe that would have been a problem. But you know what, dude? He didn't. He left before because he knew that was eventually going to happen. And he never cited his whiteness. Because that's another thing that these fucks do that is racist. And is completely racist. And you can't argue otherwise. And we'll get to that too. Right? Put a pin in it. But if three white champions instead of calling themselves the Three Kings, yeah, they called themselves like the Three Colonizer Kings or some shit. The Three Colonizers. We'd have a real fucking problem, okay? We'd have a real fucking problem. And don't lie and say that there wouldn't be, because there fucking would be. The media would have a heyday with that shit, dude. They would go buck wild, all right? So, you know. Also, dude, he cites other people that... I mean, I don't know that any fighter deserves, like, actual hate, but the way he continues on with his who's hated, right? And that they're black, which he skips over a ton of white people very conveniently, that are absolutely despised in the MMA community. But he lists Izzy, and he says that Izzy was liked throughout his come up, was loved throughout his come up, right? And then once he got to the top, and then cites the reasons why people are frustrated with him, had a few boring fights and shit like that. And then goes on to say it's because of racism and that they don't like seeing somebody like that get to the top. Man, when Izzy came into the UFC, he was finishing dudes. And I am not one of those people that I don't like criticizing boring fights, especially, dude, now I'm going to be a misogynist too, but Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza had no reason to do that. I guess Carla Esparza actually did, but Rose didn't, right? Because Rose was capable of knocking her out, and not with her fist, but we saw her head kick KO Whaley. So maybe Carla Esparza's got a bit, but especially when it comes to the men, dude, big men, Izzy fighting Yoel Romero. Any of you fucks criticizing the way Izzy fought him, which it was boring, okay? I want you to tell me your game plan for fighting Yoel Romero. that doesn't end in you getting CTE. Because Izzy's probably the only dude who didn't get severely affected by his fight with Yoel Romero. I'm of the opinion that the reason why Robert Whittaker got KO'd so quickly in his fight with Izzy was because of the 50 minutes he had just spent with Yoel Romero, okay? But I want to say this too. Izzy's not completely hated. Like, he's one of their biggest stars at the moment. A bigger star than Francis Ngannou. He's a bigger star than almost he's the highest paid athlete in the UFC right now. Okay. He also, dude, he cites that he tries to compare Izzy with GSP, and he says that, oh, well, GSP had some boring fights too, but it seemed like people forgot about those before his next fight. I want to tell you something. Okay. When GSP was the champion, there was like no fucking social media. There was like none. Facebook was around, maybe, towards the end of it, I think. I don't remember when Facebook was, but regardless, dude, there was not this, like, there was not Twitter, there was not Instagram, there wasn't shit. And even if there was Twitter, it wasn't what it was, or what it was not what it is today, right? Like, Facebook used to get used for literally like, hey, Riley's going to the fucking store or whatever. But now you've got all, like, I don't know if this guy's just a dumb Gen Z and he doesn't realize when GSP actually fought, or if he's more closer to my age and was around, and in which case you got no excuse and you're a fucking idiot, okay? Because there was no social media, and also GSP was one of the most criticized champions out there. The outrage when GSP won his fight against Johnny Hendricks, was nowhere near in comparison when Israel Adesanya lost his fight to Robert Whittaker the second time. And fuck y'all. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. Go watch the Weasel's video, okay? Robert Whittaker won that fight. And I fucking scored it that way when I first watched it. The Weasel confirmed it. But he's one of their most celebrated stars. And the reason why, okay, he was irritated is because, or people were frustrated with him, is because he was saying, like, against Jared Cannonier, I'm going to go fucking do this. I'm going to go fuck him up. I'm going in there to get it finished. And then fights like a boring-ass motherfucker. Okay? And then the only fight that he has in the last couple years that was exciting was because Alex Pereira was like, I'm not going to fight like those retards. I'm a two-time, two-weight division world champion kickboxer. I'm going to go fight this motherfucker. And thank God he did that, because then we actually got to see Izzy in a fight. Okay? But I can't believe he would claim that Izzy's disliked because of racism, right? And then he goes on and he goes, Francis Ngannou. Now, I'm not going to give my opinion on the Francis Ngannou situation as of, like, what's going on right now, other than what I said earlier. We'll just fucking leave that, because people will hate me even more. Francis Ngannou. He had a problem. This guy had a problem with the way that Francis Ngannou was described and marketed during his come up, right? Hits harder than a Ford Escort, giant freak athlete, all this shit, and then asks, why couldn't he be marketed as an intelligent fighter, a technical fighter, all this shit, and then cites his most recent fight, right, when all of this marketing was done before his first fight with Stipe. Francis Ngannou is all of the things that he was marketed as. And at the time, he was not a smart, technical fighter. He was a powerhouse that if he touched you, you were gonna die. And that's why we saw him send a guy like Alistair Overeem to the Shadow Realm, which Alistair Overeem's kickboxing credentials are fucking above and beyond Francis Ngannou, with a fucking weird shovel hook. And he knows the fundamentals properly. Shovel hook ain't no fucking fun. Bro, I'm sick of this shit. This guy is an asshole. Trash talk dude. Oh, sorry. I was just reading over my notes. We didn't see Francis Ngannou implement any sort of game plan other than go full Michael Chandler in a way bigger body. I'm just going to go out there, throw crazy punches, and if I land one, then we're good, okay? We didn't see him implement a actual game plan, or what appeared to be, until his second Stipe fight. In which, when we did see that, it was like, damn, okay, we've made some improvements here, right? And then against Cyril Gane, again, we've got to take it to the ground because he's beating me up on the feet and my knee's kind of fucked, right? These are the most recent fights. You can't cite his most recent fights and then cite your problem with his marketing, which was all done before his first fight with Stipe, you stupid fuck. Also, the UFC does a fucking great job at marketing their athletes, and you can you can get mad about how much they pay them and all this jazz, but the reason why Francis Ngannou is in the position where he can go into a boxing match with somebody like a Tyson Fury or a Deontay Wilder or whoever the fuck was because of how well the UFC promoted him. If Francis Ngannou was in any other MMA organization, and I mean any, he could have been in Bellator, he could have been at ONE, he could have been at PFL. He would not be in the position he is in today for having like a boxing match with somebody like Tyson Fury, because he wouldn't be known. And it's shitty to say that, but he would just be known as another big guy who can KO dudes. Like, that's, you know, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. I don't know what to say. Like, it's just, this is so brain rot. Fucking, what is this guy going on about, man? And then he starts talking about trash talk. We want to talk about trash talk, okay? And conveniently leaves out some fighters that were beloved, okay? Like, very conveniently, because his narrative doesn't work if you actually look at shit objectively. Because he cites that, like, you know, who did he cite for trash talk? He said that guys like Leon Edwards and Darren Till. Darren Till gets a bunch of respect. No, he doesn't. He does not get respect for his trash talk. His trash talk's funny. And Leon Edwards, despite being an incredible fighter, is very hard to understand. Okay? He's British. It's not because he's black. It's because he's British. And it's because he's from fucking Birmingham, okay? And he talks like this and he can't understand him. And he goes like gypsy shit almost, okay? But like real gypsy shit. Like, watch Peaky Blinders. I'm sure you'll find a guy that sounds just like that where they've got fucking subtitles on for him, okay? And also, I gotta say this too. It's not so much that people don't like when black fighters talk shit. Okay? It's when, dude, they've got a leg up in this area. If you're British or UK adjacent or UK whatever, right? If you're Connor, Irish, right? Liverpool especially, you've got a leg up. You don't even have to be funny. Everything you say sounds funny. Darren Till could just talk and tell me the same story that I told about Kamaru Usman, right? Telling me about how he went to his cupboard and I pulled out my water glass. Darren Till could tell that same story and it would be funny because he sounds funny. And he cited some of the worst trash talkers. Like, bro, you got guys like, first of all, Michael Johnson, who literally said, "I eat my shit whole," in response to Justin Gaethje's awful trash talk, okay? And then we got Israel Adesanya, who says shit like, "I'll leave him frozen," like Elsa, okay? Dude, I've got young children, and they did a fucking side-eye when they heard him say that, okay? They went, because Israel Adesanya is my youngest son's favorite fighter. My youngest son's name is Odin. His favorite fighter is Israel Adesanya. Whenever he sees him, he gets fucking hype. He loves all his tattoos. When he said that shit, he looked at me and he went, "Did he just say that?" And I was like, "Yeah, he did, dude. What?" Okay? So if you don't say shit like that, you should be fine. But I got 2 examples for you. For very loud, vocal, black men. African American at that, not Nigerian, any of this shit. Who, sorry about that. My camera's out of focus. African American and are beloved by the MMA community. And it's unfucking deniable, okay? Now, first, if we're gonna go back a few years. 1, Quentin Rampage Jackson. Because he was actually funny, right? He was actually funny. He wasn't just loud and arrogant and annoying. And dude, if I'm being honest, I find Conor McGregor to be loud, arrogant, annoying. He's had a few good one-liners, which credit to him. Good job, okay? But, dude, he's not that funny. It's his accent. And if you were to just give this like a transcript of what he says at a press conference where he's making everybody laugh, and you make somebody with an American accent, like just me, say that, nobody's gonna laugh, okay? Quentin Rampage Jackson made people laugh everywhere and anywhere, okay? No, this guy, next guy didn't trash talk so much per se, but Anthony Rumble Johnson was beloved by everybody, and this was not just post-death. He was loved by everybody, like truly, because he was a genuine human being who was very kind. And then Daniel Cormier, whom was hated out of the love for another black champion in Jon Jones, because nobody viewed DC as the real champion. Now, after Jon Jones fucked up a few more times, which is why people don't like him, not because he's fucking black. After Jon Jones fucked up a few more times and people realized, hey, DC's probably not so bad. He's absolutely beloved now. Like, he got serious love towards the end of his career, okay? There were more people rooting for DC than there were Stipe in their trilogy. And then another one, present day, who actually has a fight coming up, Derek Lewis, dude. Fan favorite. Probably one of the highest paid non-champion athletes in the entirety of the UFC. The guy's balling, dude. Lambo, huge house, bunch of other cars, big trucks. The dude's balling. And he's never been a champion, and he's not gonna be a champion. So, it's really easy to make something look sinister and evil when you leave out examples in the other direction. So, you know, fucking miss me with that shit, dude. And then next, he brings up Aljamain. Dude. Oh, man. If Conor McGregor, if Dustin Poirier, if fucking anybody did what Aljamain Sterling did, which I'll preface so I don't get shit on, was not his fault. Petr Yan should have known the rules. He's a fucking champion. You should know the rules, okay? You should be paying attention to where Aljo's hand was. Now, Aljo was playing a little bit of a tricky game there where he kept going to stand up and then wouldn't stand up, and then maybe it caused some confusion for Petr Yan. Don't give a fuck. You should know the rules, okay? And if something's borderline and you're not sure, don't fucking do it, dummy, okay? And I really like Petr Yan because I like his fight style, which leads me to my next point. Aljamain is not liked not because he's fucking black, dude. Because in the way that he beat Petr Yan the second time was by just holding him with a body triangle, which, yeah, Petr Yan, get out of it, you fuck, okay? But also, in that first fight, that guy acted 100%. I don't want to hear anybody saying that he was being genuine there. That was acting. He was going like this. Acting like Dan Hardy says like he got salt in his eyes or something. It took him longer to recover from that knee than Ben Askren from the Jorge Masvidal knee. Okay, Ben Askren walked out of the arena like eventually. Aljamain took a long fucking time. Pretended he did what that girl did that got fucking shit on for. I can't remember what her name was, but she took an up kick. And it was like a delayed response where she went back. Aljamain Sterling was dead tired. He realized he was going to lose. He knew he would be put to the back of the line, and he didn't fucking want that. He wanted the belt, so he took it. He did what Anthony Smith didn't. That's why people love Anthony Smith. Go check out my Anthony Smith appreciation video, okay? But that's why, dude, because we watched a guy, an Anthony Smith, take an illegal knee from a giant man named Jon Jones. and not do that. Okay? So, I don't even want to hear about that shit, bro. That's some bullshit, bringing up Aljamain like that. No, it wasn't his fault, but the way he reacted to it was, he could have not acted like a fucking retard and still gotten the DQ victory. Because all he had to say was, no, I can't continue. He just hurt me. And it would have been fair. And multitudes less people would have been pissed at him, okay? And now I'm going to say this, which is really going to piss people off, but if you've stuck long enough around to listen through this whole video, I would imagine that you probably like agree with me to some extent, because otherwise you'd just exit in anger. I got a few points for racism going the other way. Okay? And yeah, I'm going to be that guy. Colby Covington is the most hated fighter by members of the media. By a fucking long shot. Okay? By a long shot. And yeah, I could understand John Morgan not liking him, but John Morgan ain't even the guy that's hating. John Morgan will still ask him questions and laugh and you know, be the butt of the joke or whatever. The flabby butt of the joke. So, you know. But guys like Kevin Iole, who's a cuck. I mean, Luke Thomas hates him. Josh Thompson hates him. John McCarthy hates him. Brian Campbell hates him. All the dudes from BT Sports hate him. Like, he's hated. Okay? Actually, the only guy at BT Sport who's fucking professional and doesn't talk shit about him, especially after his Tyron Woodley fight, was Nick Catterall. Adam Catterall. I don't know how you say his name, but Nick Pete was being a bitch. They were saying that he was being super racist because he said that Black Lives Matter, the organization, BLM, was a domestic terrorist group. If you read their website at that time and their list of demands, they by definition probably should have been listed as that. And it's got nothing to do with the name of their organization. Okay, so just fucking get over it. You know, so the thing that you would point to. Also, Colby Covington calling out Brazil is not racist either. You could call it xenophobic at best, but it's not even that, because we learned 2 Saturdays ago, or whatever, UFC 283, how shitty of an audience they can really be. Okay, so the one thing that you would point to is his politics, right? Because everybody assumes that everybody hates Donald Trump, which, you know, isn't the case for like half Americans. But the media is typically, you know, one way politically, and that is just a fact. Like, I bet you if you were to take a poll, like, never mind, we're not. Most media members or most media organizations, at least, lean one way, and definitely not the way Colby Covington leans. He gets a lot of hate, right? Now I want to ask, and somebody can answer me. Put it in the comments if there's a reason, and I'm not thinking of it. But why other guys who support Trump, like, I've got a list of them, dude. We got Henry Cejudo, first of all, right? We've got Jorge Masvidal. We've got Justin Gaethje, who, by the way, all of these guys, well, people will call me racist for saying this probably too, but they all have, like, Latino blood, right? Justin Gaethje's like, I think, half Mexican or whatever. He's some sort of you know, that. And then Henry Cejudo, obviously Mexican. And then we got Jorge Masvidal, who's Cuban, right? None of these guys get shit on by the media to the same extent that Colby Covington doesn't. Even in Colby Covington's fight with Jorge Masvidal, they would not give Colby credit, not even a little bit. And he fought a guy who also loves Donald Trump. So, like, why are we still hating on Colby so much? And then there's another guy who's a Trump supporter, and that's Kamaru Usman, who gets zero hate for his political opinions whatsoever, who gets zero hate by the media, and is constantly actually being stuck up for, you know, despite having a very strange personality, or strange 50 personalities. Another thing is, dude, people need to stop lumping all white people together as white people. I'm sick of it, dude. If you did this with Asians, you'd be called a racist, right? We're going to see this on the coming up card here. We've got, like, this is like a fucking Southeast Asia fucking extravaganza here. We've got, like, Chinese fighters, South Korean fighters, Japanese fighters. They don't all look the same. They all say their names differently. They all, like, you know what I mean? If you were to lump them all together and be like, oh, look at all those Chinese, whatever, that would be racist. I don't understand why it gets done here with white people. Okay. Even with black people, you've got distinctions. You've got African American. You've got, you know what I mean? It's fucking crazy to me because I'm partially Irish, like a good chunk of me, like 30% Irish. And then I'm 50% German. Now I've got, so that's a, if you know your history, that's a complicated, you know, obviously on one end of the spectrum, I've got a nationality or whatever ethnicity that seriously, like, did horrible things at a certain point in time and were on the side of, quote unquote, like, the oppressor. And then I've got ones who were on the opposite of that. Like, I don't know what y'all think, but Irish people for a very long time were not just treated as so-called, like, white people, you know. And they were persecuted in their own country for they have a very, very, very challenged history. And I'm sick of people lumping them all together, acting like all white people are the same. It's fucking gross and racist, okay? Conor McGregor's history is vastly different from somebody like that was born in America, even like a Henry Cejudo who was born in America, or a Justin Gaethje who was born in America. Okay? It's just different, dude. Stop lumping everybody together. If you're gonna claim racism everywhere you fucking go, don't be a racist yourself. And also, dude, on my last point, if John Jones, if Dana White in the UFC was racist, John Jones would have been long time ago. Would have been gone a long time ago. We wouldn't be hearing his fucking comeback fight, alright? Now, this video is fucking way longer than I thought it was going to be, unfortunately, because this shit drives me crazy. Okay, people probably aren't going to watch it, but whatever, man. Shit, I wish I realized how long I was talking for. But, you know, anyways, I'm going to leave it there then. Bullshit. Debunked. Fuck you, Kiiyon Kimura. You're a cuck. You're looking for evil in all the wrong places. And, yeah, that's it. Fuck it. Like and subscribe. Please. See ya.